Hi everyone, I'm Tamara Makabanga. I am the founder and chief content officer here at Alaking Creatives. Welcome back to yet another episode of the 50 digital technology solutions that every business needs. And today I am chatting with Michael Cohen. Michael, could you please introduce yourself?
Of course. Tamara, I'm the commercial officer or commercial director and transformation director for a business called Terraflow. And essentially what we do is we make AI work. So it's a big technology, and I think there are lots of little parts that fit into your 50 scopes that you're going to be speaking to. So I'll let you guide me through the questions. But yeah, I'm the kind of transformation director and really manage the commercial side of that. And it's an interesting space because there's a lot of change happening, and there's a lot of very exciting stuff. And it also becomes really interesting because a lot of small businesses can compete with the large multinationals given the scope of technology that's available to them. So it's a very exciting space that we're playing in. So yeah.
Awesome. No, that's absolutely awesome. However, I want you to give us a broader overview of who exactly Teraflow is and what do you do?
Cool. So as I say, we make AI work. And if we go and look at a large business, you've got a whole lot of data scientists and they're going to put together an algorithm. And the problem with that is they can't use that algorithm because the data is not structured in the right way. And the data can't suddenly scale up. So what we do is really, we're a data engineering business at heart, and we're the plumbers of the data world. And think about it this way. There's a whole lot of highway networks, but if there's a very bad interchange, you can't drive on that highway network. And we go in and we fix the highway network. So we actually get a lot of data out of typical legacy infrastructure environments because you can't scale up your data. And we put it into cloud. We do like Google Cloud because it's a very easy to use framework. And the reason why you want it in cloud for the starting point is so that you're running a Black Friday special. And suddenly, instead of having 100 customers a day, you're going to have 1,000 customers a day. They give you the computing power as and when you need it, as opposed to you buying the computing power and having 90% of it sit idle, costing you a huge amount of money. But that's step one. So that's the infrastructure side of it. The step two is really getting the data to work. And it's re-engineering the highway and allowing the algorithms to really use complex data that is structured in a way that makes sense. So we kind of take the bad fuel and we turn it into rocket fuel so that the data scientists can actually use the algorithms that they're so passionate about building. So that's really, in essence, what we do. So we make the data, we fix the data that allows businesses to really scale and grow and develop what they need to in terms of a data system and an algorithmic system, and become an AI-enabled business. So that's the core essence of the business.
Honestly, it sounds super complicated, like from what you're explaining, but I understand exactly what it is you're doing, and I hope the audience will definitely understand as well. So let us know, what is Teraflow's unique selling point?
As I say, the core challenge that we solve is making AI work. And it's a problem because, as a data engineering business, you're going to have a lot of data scientists who need our solution. So they're going to be sitting idle. So one of our clients, they're a very large telco. They've got 16 data scientists, and 15 of them are forever sitting, waiting for the one data scientist to work, because of the ability to use the data, to scale the data. So really what we do is we enable the AI, and the problem we're solving is structuring data. And I'm putting it into pretty simplistic terms. And some of my colleagues, the data guys, they would shout at me and they say, you can't say that because it's not technically correct. But it makes sense to a moron like me because I'm not a data scientist or a data engineer. My background is marketing. It's more on the digital side as opposed to the data side and the technology side. But the ultimate problem that we solve is around making the data work. And let me give you a really practical example. everyone's talking about chatbots. New kind of buzzword. We need chatbots, whether it's for customer service, improving sales, whatever it actually is, whether it's internal or external. And the problem is you're going to get a team of guys building a chatbot, but they hard code the questions and answers. So, we go through a customer journey, and those customer journeys are hard coded. And what the problem there is you're not using machine learning to really learn from the data that the company has, and learning from the questions that the customer is asking. So we will make the chatbot smarter. We won't build the chatbot interface, but we will actually go behind the scenes and we'll make the chatbot a lot smarter. We'll build the natural language processing frameworks so that the chatbot becomes more dynamic, smarter, and learns by being integrated into the company's data, but also learning through what the customer is actually asking. So that's the big difference. On the one side, think about it as a scaffolding. It's hard-coded. You can't really move it. Whereas we come with a very dynamic, flexible scaffolding that changes as per demand. So it's really allowing the data to become useful to an organization. And if you think about it, you've got businesses like Facebook and Google. They are digital businesses, and they started digital because they built off their data. They built their data frameworks correctly right up front. And there's this buzzword around digital transformation, which I know you're really passionate about. So I'm taking a little bit of a dig there. But if you think about it, what digital transformation is that it's really becoming a digital business. And a digital business, in our definition, is developing an agile way of working. It's not just about scrums and lean methodology, but it's about how do you become more responsive to change at a human level, but it's built on data and it's powered by AI. And ultimately, we fix the bottom of that triangle. We enable the data to be worked. So that's the core problem that we solve. And we have lots of fights internally because it's like, well, who are we talking to? If it's a CEO, they're going to be like, how do I use artificial intelligence to become more competitive? Whereas if I'm talking to a chief data officer, they're going to be like, how do I make my data scientists more productive? So it gets quite interesting in terms of positioning, because it depends on the lens we're looking through. So there are trade-offs on that. And I know you're going to ask me more questions about that as well.
Yes, definitely. I'm curious to know, like, what different functions do you assist with within a business? So you said that you do chatbots, you said you should help the CEO, but you're also helping the data scientists. So could you give us like an overview of all of the different departments that you are able to assist using artificial intelligence?
For sure. It really comes down to the data team. And the data team is going to have different internal sponsors. So it could be the marketing department. They're going to have specific demands that they're going to need to get out of artificial intelligence. And a great example of this is if we can take your customer data and smash it into Google AdWords, you're going to have a pretty powerful marketing system. So it's a solution that we could actually solve because we understand how to take the data and put it into Google AdWords, and it allows you to really optimize your digital marketing spend. It might be the customer department, or the call center department. You need to put call center AI in there. So we really do work across all departments, but typically it's your chief data officer. And it gets confusing because I keep having to ask my colleague Brett Sinclair, what's the difference between a CTO and a CIO? And one's a chief technical officer and the other one's the chief information officer, but it's different in every organization. But ultimately, the people that we need to work with are the people who are responsible for the data and then solving the user case as per that company demand. And it's an important point, and it's something that we've had to learn because we've been able to work out the marketing story. And for us, this is a very exciting business because when we look ahead of ourselves, I mean, imagine social media has just been invented and you're the first digital marketing agency. That's the kind of world we're living in here. So it's really a new space. and we've got this white space in front of us, and we've had to work out how to sell what we do and how we actually solve a business's problems. And we are a services business as opposed to a product business. And we've had to fight quite hard with the techies because they're like, let's build a product. And I'm like, lekker. But I've got to go and sell the product, and I've got to go and scale the product and get users into that. And that's the hard part. So we are not a product business. So we won't build a chatbot solution or a compliance automation product. We will actually go and solve an artificial intelligence challenge that the company has. Otherwise, it just becomes, and again, I know you're going to ask me more questions on this. You've got to peel the onion from the inside out. And that was advice I got when I was at one of the entrepreneurial clubs. It's you've got to have a very, very narrow focus, because the narrower your focus, the broader the appeal. You do content, you focused on content, and it's this little box. And if someone comes and asks you out of this box, just outside the box, it's tempting. You're like, I want the money. But it doesn't grow your business. It doesn't grow your business. And it compromises in the long run. And there's always a trade-off. And sometimes you actually have to do it because the trade-off is food on the table versus growing the business. So we continually refining our thinking around who we need to talk to and how we need to solve the problems. It's a challenge. It really is a challenge. But what I can actually just add on to this, the opportunity on the flip side of this is the technology that we use. We're a Google and Amazon partner. This is technology that is AI enabled. So what I'm saying is, if you're a startup, you've got access to this incredible technology that Google has built their business off. So you can go and use exactly the same products and solutions that Google has used to grow their business by going into Google Cloud, because it's actually not about the Google Cloud framework. It's actually about using and leveraging the artificial intelligence programs, the machine learning capabilities. That's where the value sits. And we've got a couple of small businesses that are doing some pretty damn incredible stuff on this, but they're using and leveraging artificial intelligence, and it's symbiotic with cloud. So that was a bit of a long answer, and it was like scared to. So probably gave you 20 other questions.
No, honestly, like every answer every question that I had in mind, like you already answered it. So that is awesome, because I was just about to ask you, like, how can startups and small businesses that don't have like large data sets actually leverage this? So Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you for being
you know what? In fact, Google have got a startup framework, and I don't know too much about it, but it drives me nuts, because if you've got the right framework, they do actually help get you into the system, and they'll give you like $100,000 worth of credits on Google Cloud. That's like 1.7 million Rand. That's an investment into your business, I mean, there's obviously due process that you've got to go through. So there are some places to go and look at. I mean, it's not our world, because we look at the larger or established businesses, but what some of these startups are doing, it's pretty damn cool. And it's a mind shift change as well, because you've got to think about data differently. You've got to think of, you're building a data business. You're building a data-enabled business. What does data mean? You got to find customers. And how do you find customers? You got to build a better product. And how do you build a better product? By understanding your customers better. And when you understand your customers better, you can deliver a better product and service. And that generates the data. And that's where Google becomes really, really powerful. It's this kind of symbiotic relationship. But you got to put data at the center of your business. So yeah, I'm not too sure which technology we're talking about in your 50 technologies here, because there are a few here that kick in here. So yeah.
The main focus actually for this interview was like the whole cloud computing software. Yes. So I believe that you have pretty much been answering towards that direction. So in your opinion, what has necessitated like this move towards cloud computing? And do you believe that and what other benefits have like your customers already told you that, hey, this is what we're experiencing beyond just the cloud computing software?
No, absolutely. It's a great question. And I think it comes back to the point. This is still really, really new. And I've got a secret for you. most of these guys who are in charge of data in these large organizations don't understand cloud computing. And I think, no, and it's a serious problem. And I mean, it becomes a behavioral problem as well. And for a lot of guys, they've got to learn new skills because, I mean, let me break it down this way. If you look at how it's, historically, you'll go and buy data storage at one of the data storage companies. And I'm really simplifying the terms here, but you'll go and buy space at Didata or EOH or one of the big providers. And so you're really putting your data into that environment. What cloud computing does is it allows you to manage your data as a it's called a platform as a service. Whereas on the traditional system, I've got to go and employ a network architect, a security architect, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got to go and build a whole lot of skills and resources to manage a legacy system at one of the traditional providers. And whereas on the other hand, you've got Google, which is going to actually do all of that for you. And the benefit, and we get asked this question every time, and I just want to slap myself in the face with it. It's like, but they're not secure enough. It's like, this really reflects a deep misunderstanding of what cloud is, because what cloud does is Google's going to look after all of that infrastructure for you, so that you just log on, you put your data in there, and I'm simplifying the language here. But Google are going to make sure that the servers are always up. They're going to make sure it's secure, the networks are online, et cetera, et cetera. But what you're getting here, and this is the power of scale, you are getting some of the best security engineers in the world looking after your data, because they're now taking responsibility for the security of your data. If I go and put my data in one of the local providers, I've got to manage the security. So what you're getting here is incredible capacity, resource. You're also getting the advantage of exponential technologies here, because the way it would typically work is if I want to go and put data into a traditional environment, I've got to go buy that storage. So I might even have to go buy the hardware, but I'm now buying effectively old hardware, because the minute I buy it, it's out of date. Whereas Google, I don't have to worry about the actual hardware, and Amazon. They've actually built their own hardware, and when it gets redundant, they just pull out the hardware and they put in a new piece. So you're always getting the latest hardware as well. So it just makes your life incredibly simple. And probably, if we're talking about a startup world, the value that they bring for you is they allow you just to do your job, and that's to grow your business. You don't have to worry about all of the back end stuff. It does simplify things dramatically. I mean, obviously, you've got to find the right people to support you and guide you on this stuff. But Google startups, like, no, we need the data first, because we're the data engineers. We're not the data scientists. There's a big difference on that. Because if you structure your data properly up front, you don't need us. And in fact, for a lot of organizations, they ask us to come in and actually teach their data engineers. Because you know what, the data scientists, what they like to do is think about the plumbing environment. What's at the end of the plumbing environment is a toilet. The data scientists, they want to make the toilet seat the most comfortable, like sophisticated toilet seat. Whereas we the oaks who've got the machinery out the back end, they're cleaning the pipes. So there's a big difference in terms of that. But that's really the big benefit of cloud computing. It allows you to scale. But you've also got the capacity to really leverage the Google machine learning capability. And you're able to, it's amazing. They've got, I forget the name now, but they've got almost a black box for machine learning. So machine learning is a subset of AI, but you can now take an algorithm out of that black box and use it for your business. So it's like open sourcing algorithms. So this world is moving very fast, and it allows you to scale really, really quickly. And you know what? It sounds complicated, and when you get into the plumbing world, it is complicated. But you don't need to get into the complicated world, because Google are taking that kind of pressure off you. They're really helping you to become a lot more aggressive in solving the product market fit, as opposed to solving the technology problem. And it's going to be interesting to see over the next kind of 10 years on how this can actually solve a lot of the global problems. And it's interesting. There's a saying from systems thinking, yesterday's solutions are today's problems. And if you think about it, I mean, yesterday's legacy hardware solution is today's problem. And this is where a lot of these big companies are struggling to get their heads around and how to leverage it. And that's an opportunity for someone who really looks at the market and says, I'm going to leverage the power of Google or Amazon. I'm going to leverage the scalability of what they give to me. I'm going to leverage the resources that I can find there, but I'm going to focus on solving a product market fit so I can scale my customer problem. And if you can scale the customer problem, you're going to kill those big companies. It's going to be interesting to see.
I can imagine, honestly. Thank you so much, Michael. I can honestly tell that you're super passionate about this and you know exactly what it is you're talking about. So
no, I've got no clue. I promise you. I just like to sound clever. I'm using all the buzzwords. I really do. And I'm going to, whenever I need to be on an AI panel, I phone Prin, who's one of our technical guys. I was like, Prin, you coming with me or Camoon? I was like, guys, I don't know what I'm doing here. I really don't.
Honestly, you've cleared things up a lot for me because when I first came across the word cloud computing, I'd see it a lot, but I wouldn't understand exactly what it is. And you've absolutely made it super clear for me.
Can I add a context into this? Because we actually don't use the term cloud computing. I mean, obviously we do. But when we think of cloud computing, there are two types of cloud computing. We call Amazon and Google hyperscalers. You could include a Microsoft Azure in there, but we don't like them because of the licensing frameworks. I mean, we work on them, but we find Google's very easy to use from a data point of view. Amazon is a bit stitched, but the big value, obviously, from an Azure point of view, is the software licensing. But we talk about these as hyperscaling, whereas you get a lot of the local guys saying, "Oh, we've got a cloud computing setup," but it's actually just a data center in the back room there. It's not a hyperscaler. So when we talk about cloud computing, you've got to be thinking hyperscaler, and you've got to be thinking ambitiously here because it's Black Friday. I want 100,000 customers. That's what a hyperscaler gives you, the ability to bring in 100,000 customers without breaking the customer experience. So yeah, there's a big difference just in the term cloud. But yeah.
No, thank you so much for sharing that as well.
Is that all? Come, I want more questions.
No. I've got one more question for you, and it's really around Alaking Creative's framework. So we use this framework called the 5 Ones framework, where we encourage our clients to choose one product or service, market it to one target audience using one traffic source through one conversion method, and doing all of that for 1 year. So how would Terraflow use this framework if they had to?
Well, I've got a secret to tell you. We do use it.
Awesome! The first one, honestly, that's amazing.
Yeah. No, look, it's an interesting one, and we've actually built a marketing framework and a marketing system because you've got to scale your business. Now, we've got pretty ambitious growth targets, and we see ourselves as a global business powered by South Africans, or really Africans, actually, because we've got a really great bunch of people working with us from around sub-Saharan Africa, and they're doing an incredible job. But the problem with a service is we're almost selling an intangible, and to sell the intangible is really hard. I mean, I'm selling this, it's easy. I can show the products, the features, the benefits, and what have you. And so it comes back to the idea is you've got to narrow the focus to broaden the appeal. That's the benefit of the five ones. And what we have done is work very hard at trying to understand how to actually make this work. And we've actually combined it with something else called Story Brand. And I don't know if you've seen Story Brand. And we've actually combined the two frameworks together. And Story Brand is by Don Miller. I was going to call him Douglas Miller. And it's definitely worthwhile because what you want to be able to do is tell the story of the one idea. So it's great to have the one idea. And so we've actually pulled the two ideas together. And it becomes very, very powerful because it's what you do. It's content creation. How do I tell my story through content creation? And we've got a long way to go on that. So in terms of the idea is we solve the AI problem. and we continually refining it. And then we do have one or two other solutions that come out of it because we've solved those solutions. So we've broken those into a story brand framework as well. But it still becomes the problem we're solving for the data person in the company. How do we make that AI work? So that's our idea. Certainly our channel is LinkedIn, and we see that incredibly valuable, and we're running campaigns in LinkedIn. And it's a bit dangerous because we do get a bit spammy around it. And we've got a lot of things that we will come to support in terms of that, in terms of the podcasts that we're creating, the culture that we're creating. So we do have a 3-tiered structure in our marketing approach. It's really thought leadership around making AI work, which is the core problem we're solving. The second thing is really around our culture as a distributed business model, and how do we create a swarm kind of concept. And then the third is really looking at the data engineering problem. So we have expanded a bit further on that, but it's all in LinkedIn. And it's definitely, it's important because it tells you what you should say no to. And if you can take that one idea and make sure it's a relevant idea based on a customer problem, and that's the story brand framework, you've got a winning formula. You've got a business that you can actually succeed in. But it's discipline, isn't it?
It is. And like a lot of the times, like especially at startups, we're fighting so much to get as many clients as possible that we don't really focus on what it is that I want to do. What is the purpose of this whole entire business? So it definitely.
So what is your business's purpose?
My business purpose is to bring digital transformation to Africa. I honestly believe that we are not there yet, and there's so much that we need to learn and apply in order to become a fully digitized continent. And that is really the core of, that's my core purpose right now.
Oh, that's exciting. That is so cool, man. Good luck with this, man. And we're really happy to help in whatever way we can. If we can support, we'll be very happy to.